Hey guys, this is Turk, and in this video I'm going to be reviewing One Piece chapter 1181. Oh boy, we're getting into this now. We're finally getting the King of the World fighting against Loki, and we're like, this is just awesome because we're seeing this pinnacle character. We've only had him around for like 300 chapters now, and like now we're seeing him come down already and fight. Like we've seen less stuff from White Blackbeard in some respects than we had from here. We've had Blackbeard fight. Uh, we saw him fight Ace. No, I guess we still haven't really, but we saw him fight Ace, and we saw him fight Whitebeard at the end there. And now we've been waiting for hundreds of chapters to see what Blackbeard's up to, and it's like Emu's the one coming here to fight first. I feel like Oda's setting this up in a way. Did I say this before? I feel like I said this before, but I'm thinking, I wonder if Blackbeard right now is going to go attack Marijua while Emu's here. I feel like something's going to happen here where Emu, he's not going to win, he's not going to lose outright or maybe win outright against Luffy and Loki, but I feel like he's going to be forced to retreat, and that's when Blackbeard's going to come, and it's going to be like Emu's not going to be in his full strength where he could probably stop Blackbeard. And then there's also like I feel like I'm thinking Dragon's probably also gonna come. I was talking about whether or not before. I know I did talk about whether or not Dragon will go up there. The other with the rest of the revolutionaries to make a full on assault. I'm thinking he will, because of the. I'm looking at like the numbers, and my thoughts are these. Some of the Gods Knights are gonna be split up because Oda often has like hero characters split up into different areas where they're fighting each other, and like even though the Gods Knights, I forget their exact number, it's about the same as what Blackbeard's crew has with their captains. But I'm thinking like the Gods Knights and will be fighting some of the Blackbeard captains, his main subordinates, his cabinet, his main group, and maybe someone will be fighting Dragon. And it's just going to be a lot of stuff going on up there while we have it simultaneously. I suspect this will happen while the Straw Hats are going toward Elbaf. I was initially thinking the Straw Hats will go up to Elbaf, but it's like I'm just thinking more like, oh, Oda's going to do this giant like Wano and Dressrosa stuff again, and he does it with other arcs too, where everyone's separated in other areas. So that's just like it's gonna get crazy. And like what that could mean too. One more thing is that the Marines were probably going after the Straw Hats while they're going after almost at Laughdell, and that way they'll be kind of thinned out and be able to help the Gods Knights fight Blackbeard and the others. Anyways, that's a lot of conjecture. Oda can play this in a lot of different ways, and I can't wait to see that. But this is interesting now because now we're trying to figure out more about Emu here. We get a little bit of stuff here, and it does seem like he's got some kind of devil fruit power that's related to some kind of demonic flames, hellfire type stuff. Because they called it the devil's fruit. I saw Tekking said this at least. I saw he had a video on it. And I haven't looked at it. Oh, can Emu use all those devil fruit powers? And I'm not sure that's what this meant. I think this is just literally like a devil. He's a devil and he's got the tail and horns and everything. Like I bet Oda is gonna go a route somewhere where some character has a power, maybe where they can imitate other devil fruits. Every story seems to have something like that where someone can copy powers or use others' powers somehow. There's always some character that always usually does that. I'm thinking like of off the top of my head, I'm thinking like in Pokemon, you got Clefairy and its evolutions in that, and it can use Metronome, which allows it to pull out other moves. Or you got Mew that can learn all the TMs. Or you got Mirror Move, which I think was originally taught by Pidgeot in its evolution line, and that can copy one move, or also Mimic. So yeah, there's always like something out there that does it, but Emu seems like he's got like a devil fruit that just like it's I'm not even sure if it's a devil fruit. So I'm saying devil fruit, but I'm feeling like this is not really a devil fruit, but like a contract with some kind of demonic powers. We're getting these stuff where like Brook was like one of the earliest versions of this. Brook has a devil fruit, but now because he was able to, he died and came back to life. He's like got in touch with the afterlife stuff, and he's tapping into stuff like that. I got something playing here, and so I think there's something similar going on here where Oda's going into like this different power stuff that's different than devil fruits. And the devil fruits are like Vegapunk touched on this a little bit, but we didn't get a lot of straight answers. He just figured out how to synthesize and replicate or copy or mass produce, and he could probably like mass produce the powers of devil fruit, except for Logias. But like he didn't figure out exactly where that came from. Since he tapped into the stuff about there was this advanced kingdom that made all this stuff, like the Emmet, that he can't replicate, like the power source, anyways, of that. I'm thinking there's something there too, where the devil fruits have some kind of advanced science magic stuff that's going on there that's different here, and Imu's powers just make me think it's similar to that, especially the way he can endow and there's another word, the give power to others with this contract stuff, the covenants actually. So in the last chapter he came down to, and we still don't know if he has like a limit of how long he can be here. That's the other thing I'm bringing up, why I think he's going to be weak if someone comes up there. I'm wondering if he'll be weakened being down here too long, because there's something. I'm wondering if there's like a thing where he has to stay in a certain place with this special power. Because when he transformed from the silhouetted form to this, whatever that transformation is, like I called it like a shell last time. It seemed like he was bleeding for a little bit there, and but anyway, so he went up and started fighting some of the other heroes here, the Straw Hats and the Giants, and he immediately took them. I don't know if you could say he completely defeated them. Sanji looked like he may have got damaged the worst, or taken out, or not the worst. We also saw that Gerd and Stanton were quite were injured as well. So there's Oda stepped like this idea, like, okay, and some of the other heroes can't really stop this guy. So he was putting up, Loki and Luffy, I think, going to be the one, probably can be the only ones that can really fight him here. He just seems like he's too strong, like physically, but we'll still have to see too if he's like actually a good warrior. I was guessing in the last chapter that I don't know if he's really a warrior, or if he's just like so OP physically that he thinks everyone else is beneath him, like a Frieza I brought up. So let's get into this one. We ended it after he took out, he stopped Zoro and Sanji, and did he fight? No, Haruden tried to attack him, and he fought Haruden off with he's using these flame attack things that this Omen where it went like boop and stuff, and now he also has a Bicento type weapon. No, he also got Summers back together, and he came here to rescue Imu and killing him too. And I don't know, they don't show what happens there. Yeah, Sanji intercepted him there when he untied Killingham. So the others are gonna have to keep an eye on him while the others, Loki and Luffy, are fighting him. So the ending was a cliffhanger here with these two facing off. Now let's get into it here. So we start with a little bit of a flashback of and Loki remembering what Harold said to him before he died about how he, by accepting this covenant and the stuff his crimes of killing his men, and all the stuff he accrued doing to help Elbaf, he realized he had failed Elbaf in the end, and he told Loki, don't, if I get a bad reputation afterward, I don't care. I don't want people knowing the truth. Jarl recently decided to tell the truth, which probably would make Harold quite upset. But Loki remembers this and is using this as his fuel here. Like, he's been thinking about this for years now. Okay, this is all happening because my dad took this deal with the devil thing. That's what this whole one. Actually, I forgot to say, this chapter's called Gods and Devil, or is it the Devil and God? Yeah, a God and a Devil, or something like that. And Loki's like thinking, okay, this is BS. This stuff that happened, and I like, are you one of the ones? Are you the one that did this? My dad died at 144. He was barely halfway through his life, and are you the one who caused all these problems? And Imu just like Loki's also saying, this was you caused so much problems for us, and Imu just like, well, I was the one who only suffered a great setback. He does it in a third person too. He's just like, yeah, Imu's like, you're gonna see here too. Imu's he's pissing me off in that way where he's it's a very cold way actually. It's annoying in its own way. It's like it's not like it's self-centered, but it's not the same as Frieza. Where like in Frieza, he's like he feels like he's frustrated because it's like so everything Frieza does is like for fun in a way. It's all like Frieza's like just an overgrown kid who's so powerful. This guy is like giving me this Imu's giving me this like cold calculating thing where everything he does is to like stay in charge and like keep the things running smoothly. And there's going to be an interesting crack later though where something's bugging him. He's got that chip on his shoulder. We saw a little bit of it with the flashback with Rocks. He's still afraid that the people from out of the D clan will come someday and take over will usurp his power. Loki just like, well, at this point, he's like, probably just thinking, screw this guy. I'm not going to be able to get through to him. And so he brings up Ragnar and he starts starts summoning his energy and building up energy into this. And there's lightning and everything building up here, which looks really cool. I'm going to do it like that. And then he says to Imu, tell me, are you the one who did this to my old man? And explain to me what you did. And he starts having that flashback again of the stuff that happened at the last moments there, and what Harold said. Once I'm dead, my reputation means nothing. And so he's just like, he wants answers here, because because Harold never had enough time to really explain everything to him. He talked about how his body was being controlled. I'm trying to think if he explained the Covenant stuff. He probably didn't have enough time to explain how he took a deal with this mysterious being. And even then, this wouldn't be that story wouldn't have been that helpful because he only saw Imu in the silhouette form, and so he pulls down a lightning bolt attack, and then at the same time brings out Ragnar. And brings it down upon Imu, and Imu just stands there, and it pulls out this fire thing again. We saw this one briefly in the last chapter. He pulls out this fireball demon thing, and it goes in front of him and shields the attack, and it just makes an enormous explosion. I really like how they did this. This is like similar to this reminded me of with Doflamingo and Luffy in their final clash where he used King Kong gun and Doflamingo used 16 holy bullets with his awakening. And we get a little a follow around of the other areas here. We see how this attack is. It was like, we see, wait, who's Bonnie with there again? I see Lilith. Who's that with them again? That Brooke? No, Brooke's with Jinbei. Wait, who's she holding there? I forget who was that. Ripley? No, Ripley was. I don't know who that is. But Lilith, Bonnie, and the other person. I know. Should know who that is. But is that the God's Knight body? Is that Killingham's body? It looks like it's all black. We're just seeing like Bonnie's almost blown away. Lilith is trying to help her. We see Jinbei, and Jinbei and the others who are nearby. That's right. They're nearby, and they're like, "What the hell's going on?" And they're just watching. And we go back to them, and Loki looks down and is like, holy crap, you blocked that? How the heck did you do that? And he sees the flames circling around him still, and then Loki pieces together like, wait a minute, those flames gotta be something with your power. What is this? So Imu just says, well, this is Omen, and it is my military might. So he pulls out a new flame, he conjures a second flame. He starts growing, actually. So there's other stuff. So in the last chapter, we saw he could make flames that he flicked at Zoro. He was on Zoro, Haruda, and I think Sanji, and he flicked the flame, and it would like blow up, and it would like kind of like Mr. Five's bomb powers, And this one, no, he changes his. Now he's doing something different. He can grow in size, and so now he's grown in size so that his weapon is big enough to help him to work with a fight against Ragnar. Uh, and so he swings at Loki, and then Loki's like, "Wait a minute, how you can turn into a giant? How's that work?" And so an emu's go as the clashing emus going on. This is a power that looks within all things. So it looks like the way emu after they clash again here, their weapons just go at each other. Imu then kind of like looks like he does a flip behind Loki, and then his weapon transforms. He holds it up like is that the back side of it probably? Yeah, I think he's holding the other side. I think he's the bicento blade. So this looks like a bicento, but he's also like using the back side of it, and that's where he keeps conjuring up stuff with the flame. Not when he's not using his hand. He's got the flame things coming out, and he had the. That's how he just blocked the. He used the. No, did he do it with his hand before? No, he did it with his hand before. But yeah, you can see here, he's got that flame thing behind his bicento. And now he's got that transformed into kind of like a hammer face thing, so that it's blunt, wide enough to go face off with Ragnar's size. But he comes behind him now, and he conjures a blade out of that end and stabs Loki right through basically his collarbone area. And this thing's called Blade of Judgment Nemesis. And he's like, I think what's kind of shown here too is that his speed, he's got probably more speed than Loki does, and he's got to take advantage of that. And he continues going on as he takes Loki down, like, oh, the nature of man is to crave strength. So this is where his power. He's explaining the covenant stuff here, and he goes on. He says, however, when people crave power and lust for it so much, and they try to gain it too easily, corruption occurs. And then he goes on. We show a silhouette of how people like Dorian Bragi were easily turned into into his demon soldiers, I call them. And he says, also brings up people who choose servitude out of self-interest creates covenants. And now we go back to Harold and how he craved chose a servitude to gain power and gain help. He did it to help Elbath, though. His ideas were much more noble. It wasn't really his self-interest; it was the interest of the country. But yeah, Imu took advantage of that, and as he's doing it now, he turns his demon ball. Now he's got like a ball and chain weapon. I think there's a name for them. He starts swinging that around and using that as a weapon to fight with Loki. And then it looks like, so Loki gets up again. Despite that injury, he gets up again and brings out and starts swinging Ragnar around again. And hold on. And so he says, then he starts explaining. And then third, there's the envy that seeks to achieve one's goals, the power of omen. And these form a trinity. So while Loki's trying to get the attack, swing his hammer down again, Imu's like basically outspeeding him at this point. He's got that hammer. Well, I guess also because he's injured, he probably can't now make a quick comeback counter. Imu gets this, swings that ball and chain attack around and gets it right into swings it into Loki's face and does the explosion again, a type attack again like he did with Zoro and Hiruden, and he says this Trinity becomes a power we call domination. And also I like how he says we. Again, I'm wondering if there's something here like a contract he has with some kind of power. This is kind of giving me vibes like what do you call it? Like Bayonetta, where like this is mostly my interpretation of her powers. So in there, they got the witches in the Bayonetta universe. They seem to tap into powers with like contracts with demons, and other things from hell, and but she has to keep feeding them the angels. She has to defeat angels, and when she defeats, especially when she defeated those bad the higher ones higher up the hierarchy, she would summon these greater demons, these superior demon things that were like that would then be feed on those and take down those dangerous angels into the realm and try and then consume them. And there was something in there where they said like, oh, if you don't keep doing that, you'll be taken yourself. And I think they even show that like they didn't do it in the first one. It was in the second one, I think, where like if she dies, you see Bayonetta pulled into hell. It just suggested to me that the witches can make contracts like that, and then they're given greater physical abilities and stuff, perhaps. And the way Imu's talking here and stuff, I'm wondering if he's got some kind of contract thing going on that's not, he doesn't even the Gorosei don't know about. Then he also can delegate, but he also can, that's the other one I want to look at. He like delegate power, but delegate it like physically, tangibly. But he brings up this stuff. I'm wondering if like the more people he brings under his control, it also makes him more powerful. And if there's something above him that something he contracted with, it's feeding into that. So corruption, yeah, there's the corruption, the covenants, and the omen. And then so he's talking about lust, servitude, and envy. So he's bringing out like these cardinal sin type stuff. I know like you talk about like lust and envy are like there's a 7 deadly sins, and a lot of some media likes to use them as like tangible beings. Like I was replaying Darksiders 3 the other day, and in there's the 7 deadly sins are actual demons, angels, and other things that you're playing one of the horsemen of the apocalypse chasing them down. But they're like, let's see, I'm trying to memorize. I think I got memorized. There's sloth, there's anger, there's what do you call that? Hunger, like you're not there's another word for that. But then there's no, sloth, greed, hunger. It's not hunger, it's like you can't stop eating. It's then anger, lust, envy, and pride. So it's like it sounds like though what I'm getting out of this is, and I'll kind of go into this in a moment, like any of these people, even if they're not willing to listen to someone like him, he can control them with like the Domi Reversi. And it sounds like any person who has like strong like immoral desires in one way or the other can be controlled. And then then when he talks about this thing with the envy, I wonder if he's referencing himself. Like, so he has envy, he wants to achieve his own goals. It sounds like what happens where like this is where his own contract comes in. This is very popular in fantasy media in general. Where like someone feels like powerless to gain their own goals, and they make a deal with the devil type thing. And then he's also doing that in turn with the covenants. But he like when Imu's talking about envy to seek one's goals, I'm thinking, and because he brings up the omen which he's been using, I'm thinking that means that's his power. Is like he's envious. So what I want to bring up here is, and they're going to kind of go into it again with a little mini flashback. And I think envy is his sin, his thing. Imu had. Maybe he was envious of, since he's the head of the world government, and the world government took down was part of the original alliance that took down the ancient kingdom. I'm thinking Imu was envious of the ancient kingdom and all that they had somehow, and he wanted their success, you could say. And so this omen power is something where he gained as a contract with something else, and now he's gained immortality. And but then he also can use this powers to bring in other servants, whether they're willing to or not. So he's also a servant. So it's weird. So it's a weird triangle. I feel like you could call it like a triangle. He's at the top, but then he can create other two willingly and unwillingly. So there's something there that's very interesting. I like how Oda's placing this. But like this is interesting too. He can't use the Domi Reversi on people like Loki and Luffy. He tried to 2 chapters ago, and they just like, no, get this. What is this thing? It doesn't bother me. And so he tries again here. He's trying to tempt. Now he's being the tempter. Now, this is really like a devil thing. He's playing the Lucifer. Would that be Lucifer? There's Satan and Lucifer. I know are sometimes supposed to be the different things, But whatever the one is, the snake in the Garden of Eden, he goes to Eve and tempts her. Hey, why? God said you can't have that fruit over there in that one tree, but why is that? You should give it a try. And so there's a stuff, I feel like he's tapping into that kind of temptation. I'm sure other stories exist that have that kind of stuff, that temptation thing. And so uh, Emu does it to him here. He's like, oh, would you care to try it? I could give you the power of God to step beyond all others. You know, the immortality, the boost in strength. But Loki's falling back, and he gets back up, and he's got this kind of like, no, hell no, and he brings the hammer down on him, and it just like doesn't work. Emu, I think, is a little surprised at that. Like, how's this guy like not falling for this? How can I crack him? And so he just so Loki gets up. He's gotten pretty injured. That one tag really weakened him. But he's like, wait a minute. So your power is God domination? I think you mean a contract with the devil. And Emu's like, God or devil? What's the difference? I don't care. He sees it both as the same, as long as he can rule over others. And Loki's really showing him. He's like got that D mentality in him. I think he's like, I don't give a crap what the difference is either, really. But no one's gonna lord over me. And here's where it comes in. The tap. We start seeing Emu's. A little flashback's gonna show up here, and Emu. This is where we see Emu's mentality too. It's like domination is the only true bliss in the world. So I'm gonna stop there a bit. Yeah, he seems to be very like hung up on this idea like he thinks that the only true way for people to be happy is to be a servant to someone else. I think is what he's getting at. Like, oh, don't worry about frivolous things, or oh no, not frivolous, the other way, higher things like that. Just let me take care of you. All you have to do is bow to me, take on the covenant, and I'll make your worries go away. You never have to worry about dying and all these other things as long as you serve me. It's kind of that same mentality. We've seen this done. This is one of my favorite ones I like seeing in this in storytelling too. Is this idea of a character who thinks it's easier for everyone just to listen to you and everything will be all right. But it's really it's just a ploy because they just don't want any threats to them, and they think they like lording over people. And it's hard to tell with Emu here if that's what it is. I think Emu just doesn't. Emu really does think himself higher than others in this weird mentality that's very godlike. So I'm thinking he really believes like, oh, you humans will never be happy, so you should just let me control you and like make this world my garden. I think Emu. I'm trying to think Emu's got this thing like, oh, this is my perfect world, and I'll fix everything, and you guys just have to listen to me, and I'll make things right. And but also we get a little. This is where the flashback comes in. So we see he's got this chip on his shoulder. We get a silhouette here of Joyboy, and we see Joyboy, and we see the silhouette of Emu. So we see that they interacted with each other once, and he's thinking back about it, and he like stops for a second, and he's thinking about some conversation here, and it makes him actually freeze up for a second, and then so while that happens, Loki gets up and brings in his an attack toward him, but and we'll get back to it. But then you see that this anger boils out of Emu, and in this moment here, he loses his composure, and he goes like, "Isn't that right, Joy Boy?" Like he's saying, "Ha, I proved it to you." So right there's something too. So him and this goes back to something Vegapunk said back in Egghead, and he was right. There was an ideology here going on. So Joy Boy and Emu knew each other probably back then, and some friction occurred there. We don't know if they were like friends. Obviously, if there was like maybe they were convening at a meeting to decide on to help to fix something. But the ideologies of a path going forward on something probably came forward. And what it is here is Joy Boy probably stood up for the ideals of individuality versus like being under control of one power. And this could apply to, based on what Imu's doing, this might like apply to like countries, different countries who are like of one culture and national identity don't want to be controlled by another. You see this, for example, a good example of this is like in empires in in history, you always see a lot of rebellions occur. I was reading about the Persian Empire recently, or the podcast. I want to get a couple books on that someday. But during the Achaemenid Persian Empire's reign, it was like a 200 years they were in charge of the most of the Middle East. They had rebellions happen from like Egypt and Babylon and some other areas, and because these people were formerly sentient kingdoms or nations, and they didn't want to keep being ruled by the Persians. And the same thing happened when the Persians go after Greece. And the Greeks didn't even like each other that much. They were under the city states. They each had their own little nationalism. Like you have Athens, Spartan, Argos. I can't think of the other ones. And they no one really wants to be ruled by another. In times of where Persia did rule over other places, one of the things they would do, a caveat, was they would have like governors, or they had these regional area provinces, or satraps, and these people would be over. They'd have regional rulers that would report to the king of kings, the Persian king, to keep an eye on things. But like the local regions, like the former nations that were now under the control of Persia, they would allow them to have their own ruler still, and like especially say like they did control some other Greek cities that were on Turkey's side, where Turkey is today. And, they let these people have their democracy at that local level, so they had a local ruler, so they could still have a little bit of their what they used to have, because it was a way to it was a little common meeting in the middle thing to let these people have some of what they used to, so they weren't so angry with them. So you can just, but these nations always rebel. There's always rebellions because they want to fight. They don't want to be ruled by someone else. If it's going to be ruled by someone, they want it to be their own people, their own culture, not some foreigner to them. So there's always that rebellion that happens, and I think that's what's going on here. Is like Imu sees himself as some kind of conqueror that thinks it's better off that way if he rules over others. So sorry for that long tangent. I just really am into that understanding of how people as different cultures in it want their self-determination and independence. And Imu does not seem to understand that. So he created the world government. He's got this federation of things that technically is like a federation, but really he's ruling it. He wants to rule it with an iron thumb, and but while hiding in the shadows. There's something there with Joyboy. It's gonna be very interesting to see if we get more of that later here. I'm sure we're going to get something. So that was enough though. It was very telling of what happened. That there's something there where Joyboy was probably saying like, "Hey, the world can work together, but we gotta let people have their own. Different peoples are gonna have their own goals, and we should just try to work together with that." And Imu's probably thinking, no, people are ignorant and they're war hungry and other things, and they should just be under one ruler, and I'll decide what's best for them. That's the basis of something like that. I'm guessing with him. So we take a little break here and we go to Luffy. So he's still fueling up. Loki was there a few minutes ago with him, eating too. He's in the probably I think like the cafeteria, the pantry area of the school, and Loki had heated up some meat and cooked up some meat for them, and he was fueling up too. But now Loki had a quick when Imu came to and fought with Sanji. Loki like, oh, I gotta get out there quickly, but Luffy is still eating. He's talking aloud as usual. Loki doesn't really think. Luffy doesn't really think internally. He just speaks his mind. So Luffy's over here eating more meat, and he's talking aloud like he always does. He's doing this with his mouth full. So if on the top here, Oda has him saying things with his mouth full, and then he's translating it for us. Oh, more meat. Gotta keep eating. And he starts going, oh, never felt this before. What's with that? The hockey is so heavy and harsh. What's different? What's with this? It's so different than the others. Oh, can I keep eating? Can't win without a full stomach. So yeah, we like cause he just been So this is what happened before with this is what happened with the Egghead, where he transformed into Gear 5 multiple times in the day that when the Buster Call and stuff, the main event there. Cause he had time. He transformed before fighting Lucci, but that was the day before, so he had time to rest. He had a So he transformed and was fighting. Yeah, he fought Kizaru. He transformed and he got Kizaru. It looked like it was Kizaru that helped him. He ate food from a vending machine. He transformed back, and then when he transformed against after fighting Saturn and the others. Dorian Bragi gave him some of that fermented shark meat, and then the moment he ate more again when he got to the Great Eric, and him and Bonnie after him and Bonnie defeated Saturn. So yeah, he transformed just recently here. Did he transform? What day is it? This is still the same day. So no, he hasn't transformed. He transformed in Gear 5 actually hours ago when he was fighting Roto's pet. But no, yeah, he stayed transformed for a while there while he was riding around on Loki. Now he's wasted his stamina with that and needs to eat. So yeah, we go back here, and we right where that cliff, this bit happened. Loki had was able to come in with a swing. He successfully hits Imu with an attack here. It's a really good attack. Finally, the first time here, really, he gets a swing in on Imu where Imu doesn't block it with the Omen, and he sends him flying against Yggdrasil, and he sits there like, "Oh, you're getting distracted? I don't think you respect me enough." And it's like, "No, Loki, be careful." So then, Emu's like, Emily is actually bleeding too. I missed that a little bit there. I saw he looked like he's injured, but like he's like and he's like, then he looks out and he hears roaring, and Loki decides to transform back into his main dragon form, and he even looks a little scared, like Nidhogg. Oh no! And Loki Loki summons fires up, charges up in the light. Is that lightning he's using? Yeah, he uses lightning with that, and he charges up a lightning attack. But Imu is able to get ready, and he gets the Omen out, and he's able to use that. And we see like the. Wow, I'm surprised I didn't really damage Yggdrasil either. The last scene here, the last bit here, the flames, the smoke blows away from Loki's attack, and then the flames around Loki Imu created blow away, fall away. So he created a shield again, like he did before, kind of, and then he just go. Imu just goes, "Oh, so thou art back after all, Nidhogg," and that's it. It doesn't say Nidhogg, but so he's remembering something here, and now I'm wondering too, like I'm wondering who the user was of Nidhogg back then. Was it maybe Davy Jones, or was it another giant? That would mean maybe Davy Jones was a giant. The Jarl talked about warrior who had it back then. He used that silhouette. We ought to go back and look at that in a sec. Here it is. In 1175. Oh yeah, that's right. He used it against. They had to fight the sun god. They say here. No, that was with Ragnar maybe. Okay, no, this might not be. So they talk about this guy here who wielded Ragnar and fought the sun god, but that doesn't say that was the same person who had Nidhogg back then. But maybe it was. I'm wondering if it was Davy Jones maybe that had Nidhogg last, and then it's just been once he died. The giants, the royal family of Elbeth has been protecting that with Ragnar. Ragnar's been protecting that as well as waiting for a new user. Or maybe they were the same person. There's something there. Hopefully in the next chapter, Oda will elaborate a little about on that. Who had Ragnar last? Not Ragnar, and maybe had the Nidhogg fruit last. So a lot of questions there with that. So he's finally got to see Imu get hit in the face a little bit. You gotta love it. It's just so satisfying that the shit the shit he's the shit we're seeing the world government's been doing at his under his thumb, it's just like we know we don't like Lucci, we don't like the Gorosei and stuff, but like this all stems from him. He's the one holding up this house of cards and making all this shit happen for his little garden stuff. I'm gonna keep calling. He wants to control the world like that, and it's like, okay, we can we see him? I want, and it's nice to see him get hit, but I would like want to see him have to retreat. That would be the satisfying thing, like realizing, okay, I have to change up my game. The satisfaction of even realizing he can't just control everything at once is going to be the best part of this. He's got that. It reminds me too of Van Augur. Oh, everything's inevitable under the fate of like no similar. Maybe it's not quite like Van Augur, but he does. Van Augur has that idea of fate, and it's like Imu seems to think everything's meant to be for him. It all will work out in my favor. But at the same time, he's like really feeling like, oh, this you guys are causing me a setback, and I have to get rid of you. And in my perfect world, I'm thinking, oh, who's it? Oh, it's Lord Farquaad. I keep thinking of him when I say that perfect world. He's got that line. Here you are, you fairy tale creatures ruining my perfect world. So Emu's Lord Farquaad, and the fairy tale creatures are the will of D, the clan of D, and the other powers within there, that the Joyboy and Nidhogg and things causing a thorn in his side from having his little garden. And the garden thing, I guess, is appropriate too. I keep forgetting he does have like this little garden area there where he likes to have little butterflies sit on his finger and stuff. But yeah, there's so much to unpack here too with his thing. Like, and we didn't learn anything in this one, unfortunately, about whether or not he really is a Lunarian, but everything about his look suggests that there. So I think what's going to happen is I think Loki's going to lose this fight in the next round, the next chapter, and Luffy's going to come in. And it's like, can Luffy, because Loki's trying raw power with Ragnar to fight him, and I hope Ragnar's okay. I'll feel bad if Ragnar gets destroyed. I hope that weapon, it make this weapon sound like the most powerful thing in the world. Like, is it like a Saijo Owazamono grade weapon? I hope it is. And but Luffy tends to be so Luffy. I think this is a good setup too, because we're going in straight with people like Zoro, Haruden, Sanji, and Loki going in with brute force, and Luffy. He does tend to like doing it himself, but now when he goes into his awakening, his stuff is wacky. And as we saw with the fight with like Kizaru and Lucci, he can be very evasive. So it's going to be like, what will Imu bring to the table if he can't hit Luffy? Like he also can block attacks like he's doing here, but then he also can he fires those flames. Luffy seems to have really good observation hockey at this point. We don't know if it's the best. We so far the best we've ever seen is kind of like Shanks's for reference. But so like, what will Luffy's hockey energies like that be good enough to fight off Imu? And like, will Conqueror's hockey come into play here now too? Because Conqueror's hockey was just brought up earlier by Scopper as to be one way to hurt the God's Knights. Is Loki not using his hockey that way properly? It didn't say here. I suspect he didn't. I think that might be a key thing too that Luffy's gonna do, where he pulls out Conqueror's hockey with his wacky attacks, and that will throw off Imu from his stuff. And I'm sure though at the same time Imu's gonna probably unveil something different about the way Imu's omen powers work to try to stop Luffy. Like, the other thing I'm worried about too is, will he try Domi Reversi on Sanji or Zoro and try and pit them against Luffy? I would hope those two especially could resist that, just like Loki and Luffy do. They have such strong willpower against that stuff. Like, the only temptations for them, is women and alcohol respectively. And so them being forced into being his demon soldier seems very unlikely. I really want to see those two come back and fight him, especially Zoro though. The I keep thinking of Zoro, especially Zoro's also my favorite character in One Piece, him and Whitebeard. But it's also because this guy's got this weapon, this weird Bicento, and Zoro's got those amazing swords. He's got Enma, Sanda Kitetsu, and Wado Ichimoni. That I really want to like see him like almost cut that Bicento in half and show that he has the better sword. But oh, speaking of swords, I almost forgot that sword over there. Look, it's right there now in this panel I'm showing. I have a feeling that's going to be a special weapon now, and the fact that Luffy can also giant size himself. That's something too. Also, he can giant size himself. So it's like where they both get into giant forms. Like if Luffy thinks, because Luffy sometimes tries to use that giant form as a way to take advantage of someone have an advantage. He tried against Kaido and Kizaru. I wonder if he'll do that again for the sword too, though. But I'm thinking it would be interesting to see him and Imu both in a giant size fighting each other because they both have to change their size. They're not naturally that tall like Loki and other giants are naturally bigger. And also, though we see now Imu's like probably like Whitebeard's height or so, or maybe Kaido because Kaido's a little taller. But that weapon there, I'm wondering like if because this is important to bring up because as we all know with the silhouettes of Luffy of the Sun God and Nika that keep showing them in other how other people have learned about it. We just saw in that other chapter 2, 106 chapters ago. He's either wielding a spear or a sword in these old text images, depictions of Nika before. And I'm wondering if that sword is the one that was depicted there, where Luffy. So a previous Sun God, a previous Nika fruit user had that sword, and then so maybe Joyboy in the last war, maybe his predecessor, because there's something about the Sun God and previous things. So there may have been another. So there's something there about that too, with like Nika. I'm wondering if there was a person who was Nika and had that power, and it was like before the devil fruit, and it's kind of like it was the opposite fruit to Imu here, and that's been ever since then. It's been a thing that keeps reoccurring. It keeps coming back, and Imu's trying to get rid of it because it's like the main opposite thing. It's like he thinks, oh, I gotta destroy this opposing force, and then I will rule all. This is very common in other fantasy themes too. The villain antagonist is always trying to destroy a opposing force, and it's just like this is a true inevitability that the themes that stories like to have. It's like you can't destroy something like that unequivocally. And Imu and other villains and these other stories that usually they just can't understand it. They're thinking, no, I will finally destroy this thing once and for all, and then I will rule over without any sort of pushback and any stuff like that. And I think Imu. I think there must have been a Nika before. I'm thinking there was a Nika person before Joyboy who had this power. Maybe there was a god or something close to that, some interdimensional being or something like that, that bestow that power upon Joyboy or maybe a predecessor even, and it keeps coming back as a devil fruit now to stop Imu. And Imu might have a power that came from the opposing force, some other kind of being, as I hinted at earlier, maybe made a contract with him, this Lunarian, who is envious of other stuff he saw going on, something with the ancient kingdom, and now he's got this demonic power, this devil power we should call it, because it's called Oda called it the devil's fruit, and now he's trying to rule over the One Piece world with that. So that's a lot. This is some of the thoughts I have on that stuff, but yeah, hopefully. So one more thing too, we know Imu can be harmed here if he's not careful. Also, it was interesting too because he used his Bicento and turned it into a sword thing temporarily. And I was looking, as soon as I saw that, that also made me think of the sword right there because it's got the same design. Overall, it's got a similar guard, the very wide guard that kind of gives it a cross look. And so yeah, he actually right there, yeah, it is the same, isn't it? I'm gonna have to pull that. I'll put that up. See how that has that same, even has the same endpoints that end in like a little ball thing there. I wonder if there's some symbolism there Oda's hiding. Look at that one over there. Holy crap, yeah. There's something up with that sword, I bet. I wonder if Imu's gonna see that sword and recognize it. Like maybe it was something that was used against him in the previous fight with Joyboy or Davy Jones. That's something else too. I think I said this one before, but I'm thinking, I wonder if Loki's gonna be like this Davy Jones successor in that way, where like he's got the mentality of a leader, and Luffy's the hero, and Loki's the leader. That's something I see a lot in some other media too. Like there's always two characters, and one of them ascends to a throne or some kind of leadership position, where the other one's the hero who goes out in the world and helps people, and it's like they both have those roles to play like that, and it's like they're both important in that same way, but then they're like that's so Loki feels like that kind of person sort of here too, where but at the same time I can't help but think that Hiruden's gonna be one that will ascend to the throne here. It's gonna be interesting how that works. So yeah, his whole power stuff. I liked how he explained this too. The corruption, how he taps into people's weaknesses, people in general, not just humans, everything. The power, he taps into people who lust for power. He taps into people who would choose servitude for to gain power too, and then and then people who are envious. The power of omen. Does that mean? I wonder if that means the omen thing doesn't work. Because he gave the omen to Summers, he used that somehow. I wonder if that means he only works on people to benefit. Like it sounded like it was a power up type thing too, but it won't work unless someone wants it. It's about people. It's just to a similar thing where like you have to want it. You have to have like this want something with easily. That's the main thing. It's like I think that's all the same thing. It's easy something that's power is gained easily. Choosing to or choosing power for your self interest to gain your own selfish goals, and and then that's the thing too. That's interesting though, because like Luffy and Loki don't have those things. Loki, we know Luffy's goals lean more to like helping people and let others be happy. So he doesn't have that selfishness that way. His only selfishness, it's like people with simpler desires are immune to that. I think is what he's getting at. If you only desire to be happy in one way or the other, and as long as it doesn't hurt somebody else too, you can't be swayed by this kind of stuff. That's what I think is really going on here. It's very similar to Goku and other heroes like that. I just really like how Oda's tapping into that kind of storytelling. So it seems here, you know, is very as a very selfish person. He thinks he knows best as well. That's another thing. If you think you know best and you're selfish, you're the that's like something where like they can't understand those others as well, and then they gain these powers. And I also wonder too. That's something too. The one I was thinking of is like it seems to me like Emu lacks any self-reflection to realize, hey, I'm just as bad as what I think other people are. So, but then he thinks that's a strength sometimes, like, oh, I'm like this. I understand you people who are selfish like me, and I can help you. And they never gain characters like him won't gain any self-reflection to think, oh, maybe this is the wrong path. But they always think, no, this is the right path. Being selfish, having others, and telling others that that's the right way is where to go. And it's very it's probably gonna be his bane of his falling point there. He really can't understand that no, there's other ways to exist. That's another thing. There's no coexistence with someone like Emu. I kind of tapped on that earlier. He's like he can't understand. Well, maybe they're right too in certain situations, and I should let them live and let live. And he can't live and let live. That's really important here, especially with someone like Luffy. So, anyways, this was a great chapter. It really tapped into a lot of stuff here that helps us understand it, and at the same time, as usual, leaves more questions. And I can't wait to see Luffy fight this guy and figure out, like, finally he's gonna be like face to face with Joy Boy. That's gonna be the part there. Like we got this a little bit of it right here, and then once he sees Luffy like that, it's gonna be like, what kind of memories will that shake out of him, and how much will Oda show us there to help us flow out, expand upon what this history is, that this chip on Imu's shoulder. Hopefully next week we find out. I don't. Was there going to be a break? I don't know. I'll look later. Anyways, thanks for watching.